Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and today we are going to Q&A as well as do a movie review for the movie, The Book of Clarence. If you haven't seen it, we're going to do some spoilers. I'm going to spoil the shit out of the movie if you haven't seen it. So you might not want to watch this because I'm going to spoil the hell out of it. Just telling you right now. Going to give a few minutes for people to get on before we get started. I did a video where I did a movie review of it. But of course, that was just a little short video. Didn't really have time to delve kind of more deeper into it. So I'm going to give people a little bit of a chance to go see it if they are inclined before we get into it. Got my coffee ready. Beautiful Guatemalan roast coffee today. Ooh, and then this cigar is probably my favorite. Now it's my favorite coffee cigar. CAO Nuance Triple Roast with coffee. So as you come on, we're going to wait about 5 minutes. Let me know who you are. Who you are, where you at. Please share. Now, we're both on Facebook and YouTube, so you may not see everybody's comment, but any comment that I respond to, I try to put those up on screen. Well, I try to put those on the screen so that everybody sees it. Grand Rising, Miss Prissy. How you get in touch with me? You have a pressing question? I'm guessing you want to be in private. Hold on. So that's my email address that you can reach me on. Grand Rising, Michelle, Sackcloth, Elizabeth, Cassandra, Grand Rising. Yeah. So that was my email address. So you can email me there. It's masteringyou10@gmail.com. So just send me an email. But I hope now who have seen this movie so far? Has anybody on here seen this movie? Word list. Grand Rising. Michael, Grand Rising. Oh no, you can go ahead and ask the question right now. If you don't, I thought you wanted to access because it was private, but no, you go ahead. Go ahead and ask the question. Grand Rising, yeah. Damien. So James said he's seen the movie. Elizabeth haven't heard of it until I mentioned it. All right, I'm gonna spoil the shit out the movie, Elizabeth. I'm just warning you. This is not going to be spoiler free. So you might want to lie if you plan on seeing it. Or you might be a person who doesn't really care about spoilers. Okay. All right. Sackcloth said he loves the spoilers. Cool. Greg, you never heard of it before? I'll mention it. All right. That's fine. That's funny. I'm one of those people where if there's a movie coming out, I will stay away from spoilers like a big dog. I would not watch that. I want to see it fresh. That's right. Got my coffee, Grand Rising. What's up, Trauma? Okay, Cassandra says she had a hard time figuring out the meaning. All right. All right. So this is Miss Prissy's question. Is there any proof of women not being preachers according to the Christian Bible? Well, the Bible expressly says for women keep silent in the churches. For I suffer them to not usurp I suffer them not to speak, for they will usurp the authority of man. And if they have any questions, they should ask their husbands at home. Some people look at that and say that women should not be allowed to preach in the church, because if you can't speak in the church, then you certainly can't be a preacher, right? Others look at that and say that, well, that was specifically towards the church that, I think it was the church of Corinth, that he sent that to. Paul wrote that letter to, and it was because they were having problems in the church, disorganization, and he felt women were part of the problem, the gossiping and talking with women. And some have even said that that has a meaning of just only referring to the congregation of women and not necessarily the preaching by women. But at the end of the day, according to the church, women are not supposed to be preachers. According to the Bible, put it that way. According to the Bible, women are not supposed to be preachers in the church. When it talks about that your sons and daughters will prophesy and that sort of thing, that's not being a preacher. That's prophesizing. And that is in regard to an end time, not on a daily basis or weekly basis type situation, but only at the end time when your sons and daughters prophesy and preach and that sort of thing. So that actually doesn't allow for women to become preachers in the church either. And if a woman is the preacher, then she would take the authority of the man. And since this is the patriarchal system, women, according to the Bible, cannot be preachers. This is one of the reasons why they had a problem. The apostles supposedly had a problem with Mary Magdalene because she was always with Jesus and she was counted. They didn't want to count her as one of the apostles, but Jesus supposedly counted her as an apostle. And even at the end of the Gospel of Thomas, when they want to ban Mary, Jesus said, I'm going to make Mary like you men. I'm going to, transfer her into a man instead of her just being a woman. So at the end of the day, whether it's canonical or non-canonical, the Bible is saying women should not be preachers leading in the church. And that is why this book is against women. But I'm glad that I can answer your question before we get started on our subject matter. So please, everyone else, don't start going into that conversation right now. I told her I would answer her question before we had got started. So let's leave it alone for now. All right. I can feel some of y'all typing right now. All right. So, Trump said, is this movie like the Book of Eli? No, not even slightly. This book would be like if you took Ben-Hur and what was that? Passion of the Christ. It's like a secondary story. Mm-hmm. See, y'all going into what I said. All right, we're not gonna get into that other question. We can do that after. All right, we're gonna get to Clarence. I think this comment, I hear it. Cassandra's thought was, it is not just Christ that raises, but all of us, regardless of your walk in life, especially those that do good for the sake of doing good, not because of their fear of God watching, but also from the understanding of the Gospel of Thomas, Christ never dies. So it's interesting. The end would be Clarence going through what we have perceived as Christ's story. That is one of the reasons why people were saying that this movie, well, there were people saying this movie was blasphemous and they never even seen the movie. But the movie really is an everyday man's journey. And when I say man, I mean men and women, journey through life, right? You know, you're born with a mindset that you can do and accomplish anything you desire. But through the process of life, you come to realize that you just can't. Some things happen. In Clarence's situation, based on the movie, his mother became ill. His twin brother Thomas walked off and left with Jesus, and he was left there to take care of his mom. And he got into some precarious situations with the local gangster, which led him to always struggling and running and, you know, trying to figure things out, trying to get up on the world. But once he saw Jesus, he wanted the clout. Like Jesus rolled into the movie. The 12 come up. It's almost like you know the scene in Malcolm X when the brother is escorted to the hospital and Malcolm is standing in front of the hospital. When he get ready to leave, he's like, and that number right there, the brothers roll in. They got security for Jesus. They making sure, you know, ain't nobody messing with him. He got the entourage, and then he got the adoration of the people. The Romans at this point ain't messing with him. You know, the Pharisees, Sadducees, they judging, but they not dealing with him. But, you know, Clarence had just got told that, hey, you got 30 days to pay back Jedediah the Terrible, or you're going to die. And when he sees Jesus, he's like, I want to be like that today. How can I be like that? What are his tricks? What is his, what magical tricks he's performing? Because he doesn't believe in God, period, nor does he believe that Jesus is the Son of God, since he doesn't believe in there is God. And so he goes, and for him, things are, knowledge is more powerful than belief, which actually goes into a full circle, that knowledge is more powerful than belief, because knowledge actually is more powerful than belief. If you take a Christian, you take two Christians, the difference between the Christian who actually changes their life and a Christian who who just walk around and they just claim Christianity, the one who has truly changed their life literally believe that they know their God exists. Whereas the one who just claims Christianity just believes that their God exists. If you can understand what I'm saying. They are merely believing. Have you ever been in a situation where you was going against somebody and you just believe that you can win? But when you know that you can defeat that person, there's a difference. And when two people come towards each other and one knows and the other one believes, generally it's the one that knows who winds up being victorious. Or even if there's something that you need, a task, you know that you can do it, or do you believe that you can do it? When you know that you can accomplish something, you go out and you get shit done. And you know, compared to just believing in it. So that becomes Clarence's calling card through the movie. That it is better to know. Do you believe the sun is out, or do you know? Exactly. Like right now, the sun is shining, even though it's cold as shit here in Georgia, but the sun is shining. It's up. It's right over there in the 12 noon sky, right? So it's like, I know it. And that becomes his calling card because he wants to be the new Messiah, and that's his plan. He goes and he gets a little, gets some buzz going, and he floating on some hashish, some opium or whatever the hell they were smoking in that damn thing, and he comes up with the idea of becoming the new Messiah. Now, here's the thing about it: during that time frame, from the beginning of the Maccabean Wars against the Greeks, all the way up to this time frame against the Romans, the Jewish people in the Levant had hundreds of people over those years coming in saying, "I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah." Barabbas, who was in the movie, but the actual one that's spoken of in the Bible, Barabbas was also saying that he was a Messiah, right? Because they believe that the Messiah, most of the Jewish texts, the Messiah is a warring Messiah, one that's going to create a Jewish state in the now, defeat the other people. So, define know. It is to know something is to have solid evidence that it is or that it exists. That is to know, to have solid evidence of that. I know that I can walk because I've done it before. I have proof. I know my limbs can accomplish it. I know that my car is in the garage because I parked it there, right? And it's in there. I know that I'm in my house because my name is on paperwork and I live here. So that's the difference between it. We can have theories, we can have hypotheses, and then we can have beliefs. The level of evidence determines whether or not you know something or you believe something. They both exist it's like they exist on the same pole. The more evidence you have, the more you know something. The less evidence they have, the more you just believe in something. So it's the basis of the amount of evidence to which you have. So back to the movie. Shit, where did I leave it? Oh yeah. So anyway, Clarence is claiming that he wants to be the new Messiah. And Christians are saying it was blasphemous that he declared that he wanted to be a new Messiah. Yet it just demonstrates how much Christians who are calling it blasphemy don't read their book, nor do they understand what was going on historically at that time frame, right? Because I want you to think about this. According to their own book, whether we're talking about Acts and the storyline about Simon the sorcerer, or we're talking about Matthew, where it says that there will be many who will come into his name. There will be false prophets and false messiahs. It's in their book that these things were happening and supposedly still is happening today. So why do they find problem with a movie that just demonstrates that exact thing? Israeli psychics' words are still full to this day. Mm-hmm. There are still people today. There are people who are thinking that Bibi is the Messiah for the Jewish people. There are people that come onto my comments and they tell me that they are the Messiah. All right, so that's still happening. So there were many messiahs during that time frame, and Clarence decided he was going to be one. Do you believe the earth is flat, or do you know the earth is round? I know that movie round. I know it's round. But anyway, I'm not getting into a flat earth debate. So stop, trauma. So then in the movie, it really, once he decides he wants to become a messiah, he actually goes to try to find out. Like, he doesn't believe in the virgin birth. So he goes to marry his Jesus mama to try to find out, which is an incredibly funny scene because Joseph just cracks me up in that whole little scene there. But he goes to Mary because he's like, nah, because for him, he has to know. And he's saying, like, and he's straight up talking to Jesus' mama saying, like, hey, can you tell me what his tricks are? His magic. How do he figure it out? What are his tricks? And she's like, it's not tricks. And he's like, nah, come on. You really believe that? And he's like looking at Joseph. You really believe that she got pregnant by God? And at first, they go through it, like Joseph was actually like, hell no, I ain't believe that at first. But then the angel Gabriel supposedly came to him and all that. So they go through that aspect of it. But Clarence is definitely looking to find out what these tricks are. And in the midst of this, there's a whole love story between him and the sister of the thug the gangster that he owes money to. Because he wants to impress her because he doesn't believe in himself enough. And that's another aspect of the movie. He doesn't believe in himself throughout the entirety of the movie. Right? Well, I don't want to just keep talking about answering some of the questions, but if you can keep them to more what we're talking about right now, that'd be great. And some people think I forgot to put people coming up when I'm answering. And some people think they know what they believe in due to association, correlation, everyday events, life situation, to whatever African religion that they believe in, right? Can any Christian in this group explain that one? They won't be able to, because they won't be able to prove it. There's not enough evidence. Do you believe Hispanics and Native Americans are Hebrew Israelites and the 10 other tribes? Absolutely not. The 10 other tribes were absorbed into the southern tribes of Judah and the northern tribe of Israel. Hispanics and Native Americans, they were already, the indigenous people in the Americas was already here long before there ever was a Jew, before there was an Israelite, before these 12 tribes ever even came about. They were already in existence over here. I feel like they could have introduced white, or more commonly depicted Jesus, a little better. It was almost like they were trying to downplay him, because in all truth, his explained existence was nonsense. I understand what you're saying, Mickey, but you got to admit that was funny. That was funny, and you didn't expect it. You didn't expect it, because one of the funniest things in this movie and unexpected thing was Benedict Cumberbatch, whatever it is, which I should know because I love Marvel movies, but his role in the movie, you would have never guessed that he was the white Jesus. And they played him up to be like everybody, all these black people just were enamored with him. And they even went and said, oh, he's so white, he's so trustworthy, he's so clean, and all this stuff, that he was walking around like he was the Messiah. He looked like the white Jesus picture. And but because Rome at that time, and this is historically accurate, Rome at that time was persecuting anybody who was claiming to be the Messiah for the Jewish people. But they was left and right. It didn't matter. If you claimed to be a Messiah, they was persecuting you. And that's what they were doing throughout this whole movie with his accuracies. Now, the way the dude was painting him and all that kind of stuff, it was kind of stupid. But it was funny how he did absolutely nothing wrong and was still done in, kind of how black people. Right. And that's the thing. And that's what I was going at. If you would have claimed to be the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah at that time frame, you would have been persecuted, because Nero was trying to keep the Roman Empire together. But the Jewish people were the primary interior force that was causing disruptions. And those disruptions was based on their messianic story. The Druids were another batch, but that's why Vespasian was sent to conquer the Druids. And then he was brought down to conquer the people of Judea, because that messianic story was the problem. So that's why he was also, and that's why Clarence also, at the end of the movie, I'm going to tell you, at the end of the movie, Clarence wound up being crucified as well, right? And then he get Lazarus at the end of the movie as well. I'm new to the Clarence character. Was one of the disciples eventually, because I hear you mentioning the book of Clarence, did he write about Jesus? Was it also left out of? No, Junior. This the book of Clarence is a made up. It's fan fiction. It's not a book at all. It's a script. It's a movie. Yeah, so it's not a real book. It's not a book that somebody wrote a long time ago. I can see it as being something that somebody wrote a long time ago, because it really gives you a perspective on what the conditions were in that time frame in the early first century. But no, it's a fake character. But it's based on the fact that Thomas had a twin. His name is Twin, right? So he had a twin, but nobody knows anything. Was it a twin sister? Was it a twin brother? Some people have extrapolated that he's the twin brother of Jesus. But we have absolutely no idea. It's kind of like people didn't know anything about Enoch, so then they made up a whole 5-volume book of Enoch to try to understand this character. A lot of Christians say it was heart knowledge, like they just know. Like I use the example of how I got bad grades in algebra because I couldn't show my work, but through the answer was always right. I couldn't show the work. I knew the answers, but I don't know how I knew. So in essence, like that, I guess. And people, I understand what you're saying. That actually is a very good analogy, Elizabeth. It is, because I too have been in that situation where I did not show the work mathematically, but I knew the answer. But I was able to do the mathematical computations in my mind, but for some reason, writing them down was a struggle for me, right? But I knew but what you did know and what I knew was the actual calculations, whether it was algebra or trigonometry or calculus, or when I was in physics, I knew the formula, but I just couldn't, writing down the formula didn't work for me. That works when we're talking about math, because there's a formula that you was taught. Teacher taught you the formula, and then you knew it. God, however, there is no formula that people put up there. There's no formula that's right. It's only what you've been taught over your lifetime, or what you've seen, people, the communities that you're in, is only that. And because of that, when something happens to a person, they attribute it to that God, whether good or bad, they attribute it to that God. When they go through a high emotional state, they attribute it to that God. When you're watching this movie, the Book of Clarence, he goes through multiple emotional states of being, whereas he's afraid of being killed by Jedediah. He goes through the emotional state of the love towards his mother. He goes through the state of feeling like his life has been hindered because he had to stay and take care of his mother while his brother Thomas goes off and run around with Jesus. He wants to be rich and buy his mom a big old house and all these stuff. But he goes through all these, in love with the sister. But then he goes through the emotional states of, he knows that he's scamming and lying to these people and he's taking their money. And he knows that he wants to be a good person. So he goes and frees all these slaves, which he was challenged by Judas to go and free these slaves, in order for him to become the 13th apostle, because that was one of his plans, to become the 13th apostle. And at the same time, he's dealing with the Roman experience of, here's one ethnic group treating the next ethnic group like trash, and they really personify the police attitude towards people of color in America, as well as other countries, because it ain't, but definitely here in America. So he goes through all those ranges of emotions until he finally, his redemption starts when he takes the money that he got from the people and free these 20 slaves. His friend redemption happens when he sees a miracle by Jesus when he's trying to save Mary Magdalene's life. What's his name? Elijah, I think is his friend's name. Elijah tries to save Mary Magdalene from being stoned to death because people are saying that she was a harlot. But then he witnessed Jesus stopping the stones in midair, and then he knows these people. He knows Jezebel and all these other people. And so he becomes a believer because he saw a miracle. Because after seeing the miracle, he came into a knowing. Clarence becomes even though he goes through all these emotions, he does not become a believer until he walks on water. Right? Till he walks on water. That's when he becomes a believer. And it took him knowing through that experience for him to become a believer. Not, I'm just going to believe because I'm walking around, because I heard somebody say it. And I want you to think about something. The overwhelming majority of people in the first century who supposedly was walking around with Jesus weren't believers. They didn't truly believe. Because where were they when he was being persecuted? Where were they when they were saying, we're going to release somebody? Where were they? If they truly were believers. If they knew, if all these miracles had happened. I know y'all been saying some stuff and I've been pontificating. So let me see. Let me check. What are you talking about? Beaver Street leader here speaking. We heard what you said about the hood. We ain't letting you slide, little bro. What the hell are you talking about? I think you got the wrong page. Something I keep thinking about. What about the miracles? People instantly heal. People being instantly healed. There's something to it. And that is proof enough for a lot of people. I've never, ever heard of, I've heard of people saying it, but I've never seen any documentation of somebody instantly being healed. I've seen people who they praying, and a person say that they were healed, but then later on, when they're investigated, they have the same problem that they walk in the door with, especially with some of these Benny Hinn's and all these pastors. But I've been in churches where people, are claiming healings, and the person at that moment is like, oh, yeah. They feel with adrenaline, and then the placebo effect comes in. But then you see them a couple of days later, and they got the same problem. They were never healed. They were just placebo. They mentally make themselves go through it. Now, I do believe that over time, a person can mentally heal themselves. But most people aren't willing to do it and won't do it. Sometimes when things are instinctual, you might not be able to explain it. You just know that you know. However, it doesn't mean that you can't correlate what you believe in with what you're able to do without explanation. All right, now back to when we're talking about the whole math situation. If you want to have a miracle of knowledge, then let me not learn about something and let it all just come to me. No background, no teachings, nothing. I think I just said this in a video I did yesterday where I was saying that would be of the miracle. Not I've went to medical school and studied and now I know how to perform surgery. That's not the miracle. The miracle is if I do not know how to perform brain surgery, but I just all of a sudden got the information, pray to this God, got the information to perform brain surgery and go into a hospital and successfully do it. That would be a miracle. Sounds like a very Life of Brian. You know, I have never seen Life of Brian, so I can't relate to that. But I give the movie a thumbs up. As a non-believer, I give the movie a thumbs up. And this is very important to understand. In the Bible, Jesus constantly says, "It was not me, but your belief in God and that God who healed you," right? Or he would say, or the book would say, "By your faith you are healed." It's you. You got nothing to do with Jesus' character. You're gonna watch it after this. It actually, the movie is a good redemption story. I do, the whole go believe in Jesus thing, that part, of course, I'm not cool with. I don't accept, but it is what it is. The guy who made the movie is a Christian, so he's going to have that aspect in it. The fact, I think a lot of Black people, what's interesting to me, let me put it this way, what's interesting to me, Black people have had the Ten Commandments movie, Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, all these movies set in that time frame. Everybody's Caucasian. If there are a few Black people, they're slaves or they're lower caste, all this sort of thing. Black folks got mad because that movie, The Gods of Egypt, was predominantly Caucasian. Here's a movie that's saying that the folks in that era, which they were, of color and Black people, and they first thing they scream is blasphemy. Black folks should be going to see this movie in droves. This should be like goddamn on Black Panther all over again. And most of them have said, "I don't like it. It's blasphemy." They've never even seen it. Aladdin trauma. I've always heard this. It's a allegory for that. But those people literally believe Jesus walked on water. The people in the first century, second century, third century, fourth century, they literally believed that Jesus walked on water. These miracles to them were literal. They were not allegorical to them. It was a literal thing that they believed happened. I heard that John was the only disciple at the cross because he knew Jesus loved him. The problem is the other disciples were relying on their love for Jesus, and so they had doubt in their heart. John, it depends on which. Do a side-by-side comparison, Elizabeth, and you'll see that the crucifixion story tells different stories. I believe in one of the Gospels, James was also at the cross, at the crucifixion, rather. So I think they and definitely who was at the tomb and who came to the tomb is varied in each one of them. But they scattered because to them, Jesus was not supposed to die. First century Jews looked for a Messiah that was going to usher in a new kingdom at that time frame, not when he come back. That was later doctrinal things. That's why the Jews didn't accept him. Simplified, Nick. Yo, dog. I gotta throw that up there. I'm trying to catch up to y'all. Trying to catch up. Trying to catch up. Trying to catch up. And my so-called experience contradicts the Bible. Yeah, and my experience goes against the Bible as well. What do I think of deism? Remind me what deism is again. Isn't deism just the belief that there is a God, but not necessarily any particular God? I am more along those lines. Like I can you some people would categorize me as an agnostic, but deism is just belief in a God, not a particular one, right? Grand Rising Wade. Uh, right. This is what I say as well. How can you do all those things? But according to the story, he was supposed to die. This was the human sacrifice that this God desired for his people. So we got somebody who want to join the live. What do you guys think? Should Timothy join the live? Let's see. I forgot how to do that. What the hell? I've only done it once, so. Lee, I need some comments. Because I don't just let everybody just jump on here. I need some commentary. I need to know who you are, what's your point of view, because, you know. Yes, LaQuinn, I can have people on here. You must not have been here when Taquan Lee was on here. But I need to vet you out, my guy, and then we'll see. But anyway, back to the movie. Back to this movie. I think every person of color definitely should go see this movie because it is incredibly relatable to life today. It is relatable that the only Messiah that you actually ever need is the one that's inside you. That if you don't discover you don't discover the goddess inside of you, it wouldn't matter if there was a real Messiah Jesus walking around. Because even if there was, you wouldn't be able to obtain any benefit from it. And it wasn't until he went on his own journey of discovering things for himself that he began to find his own Godhead. Like at the end of the movie, so early in the movie, he gets a light bulb above his head, and that light bulb represented an idea. But later on, he gets a different light, like a sun kind of light. But this happens when he comes into revelation of himself, of understanding that he is greater than the sum of his parts, that what he thinks. There's a scene between his mother and the woman that he's in love with, where the girl is explaining that, he has such great potential. He's an eagle, but thinks he's a sparrow. Kind of comparison is what they go through. His mother says that, she tells the daughter, the young lady, you can't force him to become something he doesn't want to be. All you can accept is what he is. Because it's something that he has to discover on his own. Nobody else can do it for you. Just like for each one of us, discovering your greatness is a self-discovery, not something that anybody else can give you. And that's one of the themes throughout the movie, is him coming to his own self-discoveries. And not just him, but even Jedediah the Terrible. Although he's a gangster, he when the Romans are just blatantly mistreating people, that's when he comes to his revelations. Uh, the gypsy guy who plays the role as Simon, Simon from Cyrene, who tries to help him carry his cross. He goes through a process where even though he knows he's a fraud, but he still sees the light inside of Clarence, and at the end recognizes his journey. So it's like other people are affected by the fact that you go by your journey, right? And if you don't delve inside yourself, you won't be able to do it. But everybody has a different process. Some people just believe simply by hearing. Some people believe by seeing. Some people have to know some shit. But if you don't go through your own self-work, it won't matter. I see people saying, know thyself. Yes. Shadow work is I think, who was it? Was it Carl Jung who first came up with the idea, with the terminology of shadow work? But shadow work is really just dealing with those parts of yourself that you try not to deal with, that you ignore, but they're just bubbling down inside you, and they're leading you don't know why you go into depressions. You don't know why you do things that you know are not to your benefit, but yet you keep doing them. You have certain mental psyche, emotional and emotional psyche about yourself that you ignore and try to say it's not you. But until you accept them and then deal with them, they'll consistently uproot your life and who you are and prevent you from elevating to your better self, your highest self. Shadow work is something I never even used the term shadow work until recently. But when I work with people in opening their chakras, we effectively have to go through what people would call shadow work. So, for instance, and this is what we're going through. We're going to be going through this on the subscription group, not the subscribers group, but the subscription group. Your base chakra is based on fear. It's blocked by fear, rather. So it's based on feeling security. Well, because of fear can block that chakra, we don't do things because we fear that what little security we have, we're trying to keep it, not realizing that it's fear-based. And as long as it's fear-based, you truly don't have any real security. So until you deal with your fears and be honest about them, you can never truly have security of yourself and never have security of your life, right? Until you deal with that. A simple thought process, a simple thing. And when I deal with people in a business setting and they say they want to start a business, okay, you want to start a business? Yeah, but I got to make sure, I got $10,000 and this business got to be guaranteed to work. There is no guarantee in business. Man, if I lose this 10,000, they have a fear that they can't recover from any losses. They have a fear that they go through a fear of people are going to say negative things about them if they fail. It's all these fears that I start discovering with the person. And the more of these fears I discover, the more I realize either your ass should not be an entrepreneur, but you got to get over these fears if you truly want to be an entrepreneur, right? So that's just a simple thing. But there are so many fears. Like the reason why the majority of relationships don't work is because people have embedded fears concerning relationships. Like one of the things I never understand about a relationship is that you can see that what you need to do in order to keep that man, keep that woman, that these are the things you need to do. But because of some level of fear of loss, you don't do it. You don't do the very thing that I'm telling you to keep that person is telling you to keep them. And then we have to discover where those fears came out of. There's an exercise when people start in the subscription group, there's an exercise of the first video that I implore them to do. You have to deal with the shadows in your life in that exercise if you're honest with yourself. And that's what Clarence had to deal with. See, I'm gonna bring it right back to the movie. That's one of the things that Clarence had to deal with. He had to deal with the shadow work of himself in order for him to to grow. Because even when he realized that he was about to get crucified, he was telling Pontius Pilate, which I could not figure out who that was at first. And I was like, oh shit, that's McAvoy from the X-Men, and he did a great job. Everybody did a great. Let me put it like that. Everybody's acting was great. That's a definite. But he did a great Pontius Pilate, and he was like, "No, I lied to these people. I'm not the Messiah. Hell no." Because his fear jumped in him immediately, and he told the truth. But even in telling the truth, he wound up admitting to some other crimes, and then the story continues. Let's see. Let me make sure I don't want to get way behind again. This is an interesting comment. If you come wise as the serpent, wouldn't you become Adam in the midst of the garden of Eden? But if you become wiser than the serpent, wouldn't you replace Adam in the Garden of Eden? So I know that serpents were looked upon as animals that were wise, that shed their old self and come into their new self. I don't see how you're relating that to Adam, though. I mean, Adam didn't exist, so but help me with your relation to relating that to Adam. As people on the path of truth, the biggest struggle is dealing with the big what if, as in, what if Jesus does come back and on that cloud and with chains around his neck and eyes of fire? What would you say? Well, is that Jesus, or are you Allah? Are you Muhammad? Are you Quetzalcoatl? Because he's supposed to come back as well. You see, there are multiple Messiah types that are supposed to come back. So I would have the first question: who are you? And then I got the next question: if you're Jesus, why did you decide that you were just going to be in this small little part and allow billions of people to die over thousands of years without ever hearing about you? And now they're going to hell. 2, why would you allow for your only way your message gets spread was primarily through violence? So that doesn't make any sense. 3, why you come so damn late? Shouldn't you have not came when Adam and Eve were in the garden and they transgressed? Or you could have came before Noah and your daddy killed everybody. Or you could have came, during the Exodus and we didn't need Moses. What is the first century bullshit? And yeah, I got a lot of questions for him because he got some explaining to do. Got some explaining to do. It is 1 o'clock, so definitely we can go into the question and answer because I have to be done by 2. I got to go across town, then back into town, and then be somewhere at 5 o'clock. So I got some crisscross applesauce to do. So definitely question and answer. Oh, I just need that. Do you believe that Satan promotes women over men in order to throw off the hierarchy? Is this why they have more rights than us. Um, I'm going to answer this backwards. Women do not have more rights than men on this planet. That is not a true statement at all. Men still have greater rights than women do. Second, there is no such thing as Satan outside of your own self. Satan, the Satan, if you go back to the root of the word, is a Sumerian word that means the administrator. The Akkadians, who were Semitic people, didn't have a translation that was appropriate for the Sumerian word, and they referred it as an adversary. But even at that, it's just a title of a person, of an angel who is adversarial to whatever your thought process and is up in heaven. And there are many Satans. So the Ha-Satan is still just the primary adversary. There is no Satan. And no, it's just real. It's higher morality is upsetting the patriarchal system, because the men are not better than women as a whole. This area, sure, men are better, but in that area, women are better. It's a balance. And until we recognize the balance between the masculine and the feminine, we can't generate nothing. We can't really create nothing. If we create something, it's lopsided, leaning to the left or the right too much. Men believing that they have to dominate women just shows me a weak man. And a woman that feels she needs to dominate a man shows me a weak woman. And you have no balance. And this is a big problem in especially American society, that a lot of our parents didn't deal with themselves in certain ways to get rid of the things that are dysfunctional, that we see and takes as normal to this day and time. And that's a true statement. I can look at my parents and I know that they didn't deal with some of their hurts and their pains, and they were just about trying to survive. And they didn't deal with a lot of stuff that I dealt with differently. And that is the truth. If this Jesus or any of these so-called deities, because I'd be like, are you Krishna? Because I got some questions for Brahma too. Because it's going to be a lot of questions. Genesis, it says that the serpent beguiled Eve is biased literary writing. He didn't beguile Eve, he just told Eve the truth. The truth of the matter was the moment that you will not die on the day that you eat of this fruit. And they didn't die. And that this guy was just fearful of them becoming equal. Now, this story is ripped from the Sumerian story. In the Sumerian story, Enlil did not want man to be able to reproduce, because if man reproduced, then man will understand his own divinity and may rise up against the Anunnaki. But in order for Enki to complete his task, man had to have the ability to reproduce. And so he made Adama and Titi with the ability to reproduce, and in one story with the ability to reproduce. And so therefore they were able to come into their own cognition. In another version of the Anunnaki story, Enlil didn't want man to know how to make tools, but only tell man how to use them. But Enki showed man how to make tools, and because he showed them how to make tools, a hammer can be used to build a house or to murder somebody, good and evil. So you have your different stories. But it's truly about man coming into his own divinity. So he didn't guile, but that's just biasness in order to create a narrative of the story, and also to make women seem like they're horrible, since women were looked upon as a lesser vessel. People better hope God didn't give Jesus the same free will he gave Satan. Isn't God and Jesus supposed to be the same person though? Because he may change his mind about returning. You know, if Jesus returned, man would try to kill him. Let's say a literal Jesus did try to return, he would get killed. And most Christians wouldn't even believe that that's Jesus. I know I'm way behind y'all. What do I think of religious psychosis? Explain. I've never heard that those two words put together. Then before she started watching me, she always figured that Lucifer and God were always in cahoots with each other, being omnipotent beings and all. I'm glad that you're what. So, what is your thought process now on that? I've never done that. Reading the story of Elijah and Elijah. I hate those two names, Elijah and Elisha, and replace the name with he and his when referring to Elijah, and she and her. I've never done that. Might have to go and might have to do that. I don't think we haven't gotten to those people in our. On Tuesday we do what's wrong with the Bible, and we've been reading through, and right now we just did Numbers 30 and 31 yesterday, so we haven't gotten to them yet. Yeah, we haven't gotten to them. I don't think so. Yeah, because they're later on. Right, our parents would just make it through the next day. Yeah, I would even question Buddha. I'm trying to catch up to y'all. Yeah, and see that Tower of Babel story. I like how people say he had a problem with the Tower of Babel, but then he don't have a problem with the Mir space station, the International Space Station. We got the International Space Station up there, but he had a problem with the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel was actually stolen from the Sumerian story again, where the tower was actually a communications tower for Marduk as he was fighting a war against Enlil. And so Enlil sent rockets to blow up his communication tower, and now Marduk's forces can't communicate with each other. And if you understand war, when the allies can't communicate, it is hard to fight a battle. So that's where that story came from. Now, Babylon to the Babylonians mean gateway of the gods. The Hebrew had a similar term, Babel, which means confusion, and they just, you know, made it part of they just changed the story around. Thank you for bringing up your information. When you get a chance, would you bring up some knowledge regarding the Ethiopian Bible? Is it the first known Bible? Absolutely not. It is not the first known Bible. The Understand that the first canonization of the Bible happened somewhere between 369 and 381, right? Some people say 481, but somewhere around that time frame. You get your first canonization of the Bible. I know that right after 325, Athanasius of the Coptic Church in Alexandria, Egypt, was promoting what would become the canon as what should be the canon. The Ethiopians got the information from the Coptic Church in Egypt. That's who converted them in 330 with Frumentius when he went back to Ethiopia and convinced the Oxum Empire to convert to Christianity. The first Ethiopian Bibles, the oldest one that we have is a complete one, didn't come till much later, like hundreds of years later. So we don't even know what they were reading, what they were reading in the 330, 360, and so on. Most likely they were reading what Athanasius was sending throughout the Roman Empire, which is what we have today. It was later on that they wrote and completed their own Bible that included, the War of the Maccabees, the Book of Enoch, and all these other books. But it wasn't the first one. It's just the oldest complete Bible that they found. I guarantee you go to the Vatican Library, you can find something a hell of a lot older. So why isn't it used in the churches? Because they're not of that denomination of Christianity. The Ethiopian Orthodox version of Christianity is kind of a mixture. It has more Judaism involved in it than as well, and more of their practices. But it's also a book that people keep on using to try to make it seem like Christianity was in Africa before it, and that superimposes over the transatlantic and trans-Saharan slave trade, which is some bullshit, because Christianity was not in West Africa like that. What was the other thing? It was something else I wanted to say about that as well. Oh, but many Bibles have changed over time. The actual authorized King James Version used to have the Apocrypha in it, but then a few hundred years later, they took the Apocrypha out of it. They didn't take the Apocrypha out of it because they didn't want it. It was cheaper to print it without the Apocrypha, so they stopped printing it with the Apocrypha in it. I remember having a King James with the Apocrypha in it, but business-wise, it was cheaper not to do it. And this goes back to when I was talking about Enlil and Enki in the Garden of Eden. Why would a divine God fear man becoming greater than him? Right, which is why in the story they had to kick him out of the garden, because now man has become one of us. This was Enlil saying that they have become like one of us, just conscious of their divinity within themselves, or their agency, really. And they will not want to be slaves. It's kind of like when I tell the story about Julius Caesar telling the officer, don't teach a slave the trivium, which is critical thinking, because the moment somebody starts critically thinking, they will no longer desire to be a slave. The moment you give man the knowledge of creating tools of reproduction, whichever one it was, man will no longer want to be a slave to the Anunnaki, because they will realize that they are just as sentient as the Anunnaki. And Enlil wants to keep that power and keep them slaves. If it was a real God, he wouldn't give two shits. Man would have been made with the knowledge of good and evil, but had a pre-cognitive attraction to just good. Oh, why didn't he just make man? You know good and evil, but evil, when you do evil, it causes you cramps or something. Migraines if you do something evil. If he really didn't want man to do evil things, but they were just trying to explain and figure out a way to explain why evil exists. a few years back in Syria, the Syrian war, some of the oldest Christians were damn near wiped out. Why did God or Jesus stop that from happening, especially if they were the oldest followers? Same reason why he never showed up for the slaves. He don't exist. But of course they would say it was God's will. I always found this interesting. If Jesus were to return, he'd probably look at all these Christians with all these crosses like, really? For real? Y'all can put that shit on your neck? I do believe this. I have no proof of it, but I don't think that they burned those books in the Library of Alexandria. I think they kept that shit. Why would you destroy all of that? If you're the church, you want to keep all the information, as much information as you can. If you're the powerhouse. Yeah. And this is the thing. Once you have, you don't need God. This is why they didn't like the Gnostics. The Gnostics taught that in order for you to truly connect with the all, I forgot the term that they used. You don't need the church. You don't need man. You don't need any go-betweens. You don't need Jesus. You don't need any of those things. Once you connect with the primordial energy, what is it called? What do they call it? Plamora. Once you connect with the Plamora, you don't need any of that bullshit. But they need to control you. So you need to connect through the church, through the priests, and all that bullshit to get to God. Here's the thing about that. In the Old Testament, God does say he was the darkness. He's the darkness and the light. If you are the creator of all things, you are both the darkness and the light. You are both the God, and just for lack of a better term, the God and the devil. You are the good and the evil. You are all things. It's kind of like when you dream, everything that is created in your dreams is from you and of you, and you are it. It is not you, but you, a part of you is within it. This is what in Hermetic alchemy is called the divine paradox, that the all is in all, but all are not the all. So God would be the darkness and the light. But they don't like to think about that. Think about those first 4 days of creation. It was the morning and the evening, and that was one day. So this God was the light and the darkness for 4 days until he made the sun and the moon. And then they thought the moon was its own light and generated its own light. Right. Same reason he didn't open the gates of Auschwitz. Man, I'm telling you, if you ever go there, if you ever have an opportunity to go there, it is a fucked up energy in that place. Ooh, I've caught up. I finally caught up. Yes. All right now. So now you speak. Wouldn't essentially Marvel Comics, the one above all, and his alter ego is the one below all. Yeah. You know, I used to think that it would be eternity would be the God, because all the universe is inside of eternity. But I think the way they use the one above all would be God, and then the one below all would be the devil. But they're both one and the same. Trauma, we already talked about this. Marvel is better than DC. All right, we know that to be true. That's what we know. We know that. guess that guy didn't want to come on because he sure hell didn't validate himself. He had actually hit me in a message earlier. So before I say that, let me check and make sure he didn't send me an instant message thing. Nope, still didn't. Yeah, because I'm not just gonna have any old body on here. You got to come with some. Yeah. It's a video I want to find. If I can find it, it'll be a video that explains why I don't debate people no more. Too often. I ain't gonna say no more, that I never will. I probably, but rarely. Oh, you agree with that? There you go. That's what I'm talking about, Elizabeth. That's, Batman is great. Love Batman, but Marvel kicks DC ass. Exactly. Look, y'all do not want to turn a whole discussion about Marvel stuff. And then there's a one guy I would definitely have him with me if we was talking about Marvel stuff because he's more DC, but we both have about the same level of a collection. Because I got about 3,000 to 4,000 books downstairs in the basement, which I gotta thankful I gotta order a new box for them. I can go deep with that one. If I didn't have a channel talking about this, I would have a channel talking about Marvel comics and sex. That's it. Anyway, move back to what we talking about. Anyway, you're not gonna draw me in, Aladdin. I see that comment. I'm not going because I know you're joking anyway about Galacticus, but I got his ass whooped too many times. Oh, that was the I was smoking the CAO nub or the nub nuance triple roast. That thing with some coffee is whoo, and I got some Guatemalan coffee. That thing was so good. I wish you made it in a Toro though. That cigar really needs to be made in a Toro. The fact that it's that little short thing is irritating, but it really needs to be a Toro. Which Romeo and Juliet? I don't know. Where are you again, Angela? Where you at? I gotta find I gotta have my smoking buddies. I didn't know that. But I also have a page, Angela, that you may like. You may like this page. It's on all the platforms. But that's my cigar page, Smoking Phoenix Cigars. I'm real bad about remembering some of y'all's location. I think, Angela, you're in Indiana or somewhere like that. Probably wrong as hell. Oh, you're in Northern California. Okay. So, yeah, we're going to be in Southern California uh, in late March. Yeah. So I definitely will give you guys our travel plans. Anytime we travel somewhere, we're moving to Wilmington, and we were already looking at some places that we're going to go that's drivable from Wilmington, and then Wilmington, North Carolina. And then in late March, we're going to be in Southern California and Las Vegas, and Vegas. So Southern California and Vegas. So we'll be in San Diego and LA, and then we're going to go to Vegas, and it's going to be about a 10-day trip. So if anybody's in those areas, be glad to see you. What are your thoughts about Anubis and how they portrayed him in American Gods? Um, I actually am okay with how they portrayed him in American Gods because he was only doing his job in American Gods, which is why Anansi was fussing at him. Who was it? It was Anubis, Sheba, and what was the other Egyptian guy that they had in there? He was fussing at the other black guys for not doing shit. But I like, and I broke him a little. I broke off one of his ears, but dang, he won't clear up. But Anubis, it's my cigar pen. Oh, he's with Asar? Okay. So Anubis, they could have played him better, but if you look at the fact that in the second story of Anubis originally was the god of the underworld until Osiris or Asar became the primary deity, which I do like the fact that they put them both together. No, it wasn't Asar. No, it wasn't Asar in American Gods. It was Thoth. It was Thoth. Thoth was in there. Because remember, he was writing everything down. He was just recording everything. So it was Thoth, not Asar. But Anubis originally was the god of the underworld. And then Asar, after he was resurrected and then died again, he became the god of the underworld. And Anubis just became the guide for the people as they went through their journey in the underworld to see if they could make it into the field of reeds with Asar. And so with him being at the end, always there when a person dies and weighing their heart against a feather, and they portrayed it pretty close to what the Egyptian storylines are. So that was pretty good. But I would have rather, I guess they kept it like that so that they can have that conflict between them, Anansi, and the other ones. Now, after they took my guy off from being Anansi, I didn't watch the American Gods, any other seasons of American Gods after that, because that was bullshit. And what's weird is they were saying that he was giving black people the wrong message. But y'all are the one who wrote it. It's not like he wrote his own words. Y'all wrote those words. He just did it so damn well that y'all couldn't handle it. But after they took him off, I forgot his name, but I stopped watching. What was it on? The show is called American Gods, but I don't remember what network it was on. But I only watched, what's that, the first 2 seasons? Yeah. Comparing the Gods to Marvel Comics is about right, because literally those. Here's what's funny about Marvel Comics, right? If you think about it. Marvel and DC, because you can't own rights to them, they've created a lot of characters, but all the Greek gods, well, not all of them, but most of the Greek gods are characters in Marvel and DC. The Norse gods are characters in Marvel and DC. Give us a few hundred years, Jesus will be a character in there. Marvel has, who is a character? There's a Judaic Christian character that's a Marvel character. Lucifer. Shit. Lucifer is a character in Marvel. And also the TV show Lucifer. I love that show. That show was great. But they've always, but I can see Jesus being a character, a Marvel character at some point. Once the religion died, because people get all twisted up. Yeah, Lucifer, the TV show on Lucifer was great because one of the problems that I had with the Bible is if the angels are God's first children, why they don't have a redemption story? And the Lucifer series is basically a redemption story. And if you think about it, the Lucifer says in the second season that the doors in hell are all open, but people don't realize they're open because they won't release the guilt that they have. And it's their own guilt that keeps them in hell. It is not Lucifer that's keeping them in hell, which is also identifying that God in this storyline is not keeping people in hell either. So there is no judgment outside of the judgment that you have for yourself, which keeps you in hell. But in that whole thing, Lucifer never realized that it is his own judgment against himself that he believes he has because him and his daddy got into a fight that doesn't allow him to go back to the Silver City either. So the whole series is really a personal redemption thing of you realizing that it is you who have judged you and it is you who have condemned you. And until you forgive you and love you, you will always end up in hell. And we do that even in our lives today because that shadow work thing again, you are still condemning yourself based on your past history that either you've condemned you or you've allowed somebody else's condemnation of you to keep you from being a greater person and elevating your own self. And you may be doing well compared to other people, but the only true comparison is how well you can do against yourself or where you could be, not where you at. Your granddaughter name is Mazakin, and she is one of my favorite characters in that show. I love Mazakin. Yeah, and a lot of the characters are based on gods, just written in the cult culture era. Right. Lucifer, they have Lucifer Morningstar in Marvel. Say Superman is a representation of a savior of humanity. Yep. He's Jesus. Too overpowered though. And this is they won't allow you, their mindset, Christian mindsets won't allow people to realize this, or even the Jewish don't have a devil, but God and the devil are one and the same. They exist on the same pole. They're just one extreme to the other extreme. That is exactly why I say that outro, because until you love yourself and realize your greatness, until you become free of your fear, your shame, your guilt, free of everything you've lost, until you become free of all those things, you can never be your greatest version. You can never become a master of yourself. You'll always be lacking from where you could be. I was not able to see the link. The link didn't work. And mind you, also, I try to look at as many things as I possibly can. I am glad that my channel has grown the way that it has, and it's all because of you guys. But there's a certain level of it that's a pain in the ass. And the pain in the ass is that I get the number of comments and instant messages are somewhat overwhelming. I can't get to all of them and still have a life. Because y'all know as soon as Angelina walked in that door, I'm pretty much done. Unless she's occupied, then I'll try to go in and answer some comments. But Friday through Monday is the main days that I can look at links. But a lot of the links don't work for some reason. Well, how you doing, young lady? Yanobi? Is that I'm saying that right? Yanobi? I like to say people's names right. I know how to say Shania, but welcome from Arkansas. Don't make me come fight you, Kim, because I will. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Okay. I'll just make sure. All right. Stop all that praise bullshit. I'm just a guy here running his mouth. I appreciate it. But yeah, we we it's funny. I think I said it before. I've always wanted to just run my mouth for a living. If you had told me that it would be on this subject matter, I'd have told you lying. I figured the leadership training that I was doing, the business coaching, that would be the avenue. Never would have guessed this one. If I had really thought that this would be where I would grow a channel, I would have focused on this stuff so long ago. Stop, Debbie and Brian. Don't make me fight y'all. Am I going to Texas anytime this year? I don't think there's anything planned for Texas. Because I will. Although I do. Look, this is how. I don't know what you would call this mentality. I would literally go to Texas, go to Fort Worth, that Dallas Fort Worth area. That they have this big ass flea market, and they have the best street corn I've ever had. I would literally get on a plane, fly to Dallas, get off, go to that flea market, eat up some street corn, go back to the airport, and fly back to Atlanta. I don't know what you call that mentality. Foolishness, craziness, waste of money, whatever it is. I cherish experiences more than I cherish material things. But that street corn in Texas is good. It's good stuff. Really? It's called insanity. I will though. That's some good stuff. And this Cornell, is that right? I don't have my reading glasses on. Cornell. How or why can the word be so subjective to interpretation? It's supposed to be the end or be all, right? That is because it is written by men over centuries of time with different cultures, different agendas, different mindsets, and that's why it's all interpretation. All of it is an interpretation of something, whether it's an interpretation of natural events and nature itself, or it's an interpretation of their culture or creating of their own history. But it's all open interpretation because it's just interpretation. I'll sign you up for some of that street coin. Tell me. Matter of fact, where are you, Elizabeth? I like to ask people. I like to know where people are. Because I think this is your first time on here as well. I'm not going to remember, so I'll probably ask you again if the subject matter pertains to it. So you've been accused of being a fanatic on the opposite side of religion. Yeah, I am a fanatic of logic and knowledge. Hermeticism, I am very fanatical. Oh, Williamson, Indiana. Have no idea where that is, but I know we had some people yesterday who were in southern Indiana, and somebody else was in another Ickhart, somewhere Ickhart, Indiana. Yeah, I like to know because we are going to have this retreat late summer, early fall in the southeast, most likely North Georgia mountains. So it gives me an idea of where people are. That would be a good one, LaQuinn. Next time somebody says that it must be the work of the devil, remind them that Isaiah 45:7 says, I form the light and I create the darkness. I make peace. I create evil. Of course, you know they're going to say, well, he said calamity. That's not necessarily evil. It's evil. Yeah, and we talked about this in one of the videos. I talked about that in one of the videos that Brian is talking about. Brian B. So that'd be my South African. That all forms of Christianity that are alive today, for the most part, are from the Roman Catholic Church. Whether they want to accept it or not, they've had their reformations, they changed their doctrines, but they're all still reading from a book that was authorized and that was canonized by the Catholic Church. And even though the Catholic Bible will have the Apocrypha in it, they don't believe the Apocrypha is the word of God, but it is good scripture for them to learn from. Because as they books say, all scripture is good for learning. But you can't claim to be, if you're a Baptist, you're reading the book from that the Catholic told you to read. You're not reading somebody else's book. I will give the Ethiopians a little bit of credit that they included a lot of writings and they don't include the books of Enoch and Jasher and all those books as non-canonical. They include those as the word of God. So I give them that credit. I give what's the first church, the first Christian nation up there near the Caucasus Mountains, north of Turkey. Can't think of what it's called. It's not is it the Abyssinians? It's somebody. Start with an A. But they got their own books. But for the most part, everybody else is Catholic. Is a sub-Catholic religion. Dang, Wayne, we about to get off in like 15 minutes or less. But you in Philly, and I know it's cold. Oh, ain't no way. Yeah, the Catholic Bible is the earliest widely distributed literature. It is, if you think about it, because here's the thing. The Catholic Church would not allow people to read the Bible or to have a Bible in their own home or in their own possession. You weren't allowed to. Only the priests were able to do it because they believed that interpretation of the Bible can only come through the priest. The average person cannot have the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost, that it only comes through the priest. So they made it illegal for you to have a Bible. Now, once the printing press was created, of course, the guy who created it, I forgot his name, he was like, because he was a devout Christian, he thought that it was godly of him to print the first book that should be printed is the Bible. But that pissed off the Catholic Church. And then, of course, you had once he did that and people had access to it, then you get Tinsdale. Then you get everybody else starts translating and writing their own Bibles and books. And because you got the Protestant Reformation and with John Calvin and Martin Luther and all these other people. And then Henry wanted Henry VIII wanted his to take away the Pope's power so he can get a divorce, and then his granddaughter or daughter decided, no, we're going back to Catholicism, so I'm gonna kill everybody if they don't go back to Catholicism. And then James come back and like, no, I want to control my own country, so he want to write and do his own. But that, what was, even though there are variations in some of those Bibles, it is the most widely, it's still largely what the Catholics said, and it is distributed in the most widely distributed book. And this is what people are believing. They have these slight variations. And they'll tell you themselves, as long as everybody believes in Jesus, then it don't matter if we have disagreements on these other aspects of it. Coach, have you ever heard of the Children's Crusade when the children went? Yeah, and that was messed up. I think that was the last crusade, and a whole bunch of kids got on the boats, and then the Barbary pirates actually wind up taking them to North Africa and making all of them slaves. But yeah, we're gonna send our children to go fight this crusade because we're not killed all the adults. No, the Pied Piper story, and I could be wrong, but I think the Pied Piper story comes from some witchcraft demonic story up in like Ireland or up in like the British Isles somewhere. But I could be wrong on that one. I don't know if Angelina's on here, but if she is, that's a good Really Did You Know? Angelina has a channel called Really Did You Know, where she breaks down all these stories and like the origin of things. So we're gonna assign that one to Angelina if she's watching. I haven't seen a comment from her, so yep, there she go. So there you go, Angelina. Pied Piper. Where did it come from? Don't tell us on here. Make a video. So if you want to know the origin of the Pied Piper, don't go look it up, y'all. Angelina's gonna go find it, but she'll find like all the variations of where a story may have come from. I appreciate it. Thank you. Don't share it and go appreciate it. But I am about to get off of here because, like I said, I gotta run. I gotta go see my auntie. And then I gotta go to the VA. I'm telling y'all all my business. I gotta go pick up some stuff from the VA, pick up some stuff from my auntie, and pick up Angelina. And somewhere in between all of that, or after that, I gotta make some other videos. And we will. I hope you guys go and watch all the other videos that I'm going to make today. Please share everything. Share the videos I make today. Share this video. Greatly appreciate it. If you have not seen that movie, even as a deconstructionist or non-believer, as they like to call us, it's a good movie to go see. Plus, I also think that if you black, and if you're tired of not seeing black people get the roles that they should get, one of the reasons is because we don't go to the movies and watch the damn movie. You know, they did Gods of Egypt with a bunch of Caucasians because they know that we weren't going to go see it. They weren't trying to get us to go see it. That's what they were. That's basically why Gods of Egypt was filled with a bunch of Caucasians, because it was like, I want to make this movie, but if I make the cast predominantly black to show the true historical, color of these people, the black folks ain't gonna go see it. Now we went to go see fucking Black Panther, which is a made-up story. This man made the movie at a time frame where those people at that time frame would have been mostly black, people of color. I think he could have added some light-skinned folk in there, because historically correct, there would have been the incursions of the Greeks and the incursions of the Romans, because they were doing a little, well, Hellenization is to force intermarriage between the Greeks and the people that they conquered. So there should have been some light-skinned people in there as well. But if you want to see black folks in other movies, you better go watch the damn movie. And it's actually a very good movie. Oh, and I forgot to add, because in every other movie review, y'all know I'm very big about cinematography. The cinematography and the score in this movie is perfect. Perfect. The one shots are perfect. The score actually goes great with it. And I'm very big on those kind of things. Those kind of things make movies for me. So, it's a movie to go see, and I would like to hear like what you guys thought process on the movie as well. So with that, I appreciate you. Go and support Angelina's channel. Really, did you know? Eat, Sip, Smoke Travels, because all our travels we'll be recording a lot of that. And then continue to share this channel. I appreciate you guys. All the new people, thank you guys for being here. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe. For those who are on the alchemical hermetic journey with me in the subscription, I'll be making another video probably today or tomorrow. So there'll be another one for that particular group coming soon. So y'all have a great one. Angelina is putting a link. I think, can you please put up a link to Angelina's channel? Is that what you just put up, Angelina? I'm pausing for that. Oh, all right. Pizza, I hear you. I see that. I'm good. All right, so the link Angelina just put up is a link to her page, Really Did You Know? So y'all click it and follow it. Click it and follow it. Oh, for the YouTube people would not have seen that. So for the YouTube people, it's that. That's what it is. Because we're on both YouTube and Facebook. I can't figure out how to make TikTok work without it having a second camera, and I don't like that. So anyway, I gotta get out of here. It's gonna take me 5 minutes to get out the house, so I need to be on the road by 2 o'clock. So y'all have a great day. Remember always that you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and I'm out.